Okay, we're going to start today looking at preparing our front and rear panels. So I have one of my panels. This is my front panel or my back panel. They're both exactly the same, so it makes no difference to me. And I have the accent panel. Now the accent panel is made of faux leather, and this needs to be faux leather because it will be raw edged. So what I've done on the back of my accent panel is I've made a little mark that's 3/4 of an inch away from the short end on both ends, and all I'm going to do is use a little bit of glue stick just on the ends there, on both ends. I'm going to fold over at that 3/4 of an inch mark. I'm just going to pop a clip on there to make sure that that stays put, because that glue is not overly sticky. I'm doing the same as the other at the other end, and I'm folding that so that they're wrong sides together. Then I'm just going to fold that in half so that I can find the center of that panel. So I'm just going to give it a little fold, and that, even though it's faux leather, that should, you can see there, that just sort of marks where the center is. Now on my main panel, I'm going to mark a line that is 3 inches from the top edge, and I've already done that in chalk. And the top edge is the narrower edge, so the bottom is the wider, the top is the narrower. Don't do it the other way around, otherwise your accent panel will be in the wrong place. And I've folded my panel in half to show me where the center is. You can measure if you want to, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my accent panel on above that marked line, making sure that the center is perfectly centered with the main panel. And I'm just going to use a long clip on either end to hold that in place. So you can see that strip is just sitting there along the center of my panel. Now I am going to top stitch all the way around the outside of that using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm going to tie off and bury my threads at the beginning and the end. So I'm making sure I've got long threads on the bottom and the top of my machine. I have a size 14 universal needle in here. I'm sewing on a Husqvarna mega quilter. This is not my normal machine. My normal machine is a Juki, but my Juki is currently being fixed. The motherboard has gone on it, so I'm having it fixed, and it's taking them a little while to do. So I've borrowed this machine. It's not my normal machine. It's a little noisier than my normal machine, so if it sounds a bit clunky, don't panic. It's not. I think that's just the way it is. It has much the same sort of functionality as my normal machine, but things are in slightly different places. So if I look a little like I'm incompetent, it's not that I'm incompetent, I'm just not used to this machine. It takes a while for you to get kind of in sync with your machine. So I'm going to stitch all the way around the outside of, and I've just interfaced this, there's no foam, of my accent panel using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I'm going to do that at just less than a 4 stitch length. So pivot and come down the short end. bottom. Slid down the back. I've got an infill that I use on my horn cabinet which fits my dookie, but it doesn't fit this, so I've got a gap at the back and things kind of disappear down the back. It's taking me a little while to get used to that. What you want to try and do is land in the same stitch hole as you started stitching in, if not as close as you possibly can. Pull your work out. Then I like to use a self-threading needle. You can use an ordinary needle, it's fine. And I'm going to take the threads from the front, so there should be 2 threads on the front, one from the beginning and one from the end of your stitching, and I'm going to pop them through the last stitch hole so that I've got no obvious start and finish to my stitching. No back stitching. We don't. This is visible, this strap, so we don't want any back stitching. And then on the back I've got the 2 threads that I've just brought through and the 2 threads that were on the back, and all I'm going to do is tie those off. A couple of knots. Then you can use, if you're worried about them coming undone, you can just pop a little bit of glue stick on them just to hold them down. That just secures them. It's not necessary, but you can if you want to. So that's our accent panel attached to either the front or the back, whichever you prefer to be. And we're going to do that twice. Now, I'm probably doing this in the wrong order for the pattern, but I'm now going to also add my foam because I like to add the foam stabilizer at this point. So I'm just going to lay my, you can see my foam is bigger than my panel, and I generally do it this way because I find cutting the piece of foam the exact same size almost impossible. So I'm just going to lay my panel onto my foam stabilizer. I'm smoothing it out, making sure that it's nice and flat and taut. You don't want any bubbles or anything like that. And then I'm going to base stitch, and a base stitch is using the longest stitch I have on the machine, which in this case is a 6, around the outside using an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So this stitching will be removed. If you're worried about whether you can pick out the right stitches to remove, use a brightly coloured thread, something that you won't be using for the rest of the bag. So, you know, my fabric is quite bright, so I'm just using, well, I'm using what's in my machine, but I could use a bright pink or something that's really stands out so I can see which are the stitches that need to be removed. Just keep smoothing it out, but don't distort the pattern piece, don't distort the panel, because it will end up a peculiar shape. Don't try and stretch it, just smooth it against the foam so that it's nice and flat and snugly sitting onto the foam. No need to backstitch because you're not actually going to be keeping those threads in, so there's no need for you to be securing them. So once that's all done, all I do then is use my scissors to trim away the excess foam. Now, people have said, oh, isn't that wasteful? It's not, it's just so much easier. I think as bag makers, we spend so much time prepping, adding interfacing, adding foam, adding what have you, cutting, before we actually get to the nice bit, the bit where we actually sew and create. A little tiny bit of wasted foam for me is worth it for the fact that this is so much quicker just to be able to do it like this. If you want to cut your foam to size, feel free. It's personal preference. And there we have either a front or a back panel. You're going to do exactly the same with the second panel, so you'll end up with two panels that look like this.